Harry's Bad Day. "Harry," yelled Mr. Biggins, in a voice best described as a boom, "is it really such a good idea to behave like a total loon? I'm sure Mr. Morgan is happy to be painted yellow, but do you think it was really such a great idea to stuff Mrs. Smith's knickers down the sink? And for Mrs. Worthington. Yes, I know she keeps eggs in her fridge. She didn't want them down her back. When she went home last night, she squidged. You locked Miss Hawley in the library with Mr. Johnson, who'd eaten chili and beans. The poor woman still hasn't recovered. She's 9 shades of gruesome green. And speaking of Mr. Johnson, do you realise you caused him real pains when you wired up his exercise bike and then plugged him into the mains? He absorbed 240 volts. Now he just lies there on the floor by a wall, moaning and groaning and whimpering, curled up tightly into a shuddering ball. You put sawdust in Mrs. Stubbs' salad. You put tadpoles in her orange juice. Explain yourself immediately. There just can't be any excuse. Mr. Lawson, the student teacher, had drawn wonderful educational charts. You nicked the lot and tore them up to make dangerous paper darts. Oh, Mr. O'Malley, he loved that car. His tech room had tools and a saw. But did you have to dismantle the engine and leave it in pieces on his classroom floor? Mrs. Jones and Mrs. Hall, they're good friends, but even so, did you have to glue them together? When it's 3:30, to whose home will they go? Mrs. Walker's a great history teacher. She knows all about kings and queens. But when you buried her like a Viking, that was really, really mean. Mr. Granger used to love teaching IT. His computers were like babies to him. Did you have to take them apart and bury bits in the recycling bin? Mr. Bruff's a scientist, we know, but I don't think he thought it was fun when he fired a rocket up his trousers. He's now in orbit around the sun. Mr. Jones, I thought you liked him. I thought you enjoyed sport and games. Since you showed him your karate leg kick, the poor chap's never been quite the same. "Harry," yelled Mr. Biggins, in a voice best described as a bellow. "What's the reason for this behaviour? Explain yourself, young fellow." With that, Mr. Biggins went quiet, for which we were all really glad. Harry looked quite concerned and then said, "Please, sir, are you feeling bad?" "I don't see why you're angry. I was having a bad day, that's all. There's no need to scream and shout. If you're not careful, you'll lose control. You really must watch that temper. You're in danger of making yourself ill. You really shouldn't get so excited. I suggest you go lie down until you're a little bit calmer and not so upset. Listen to music or go out and play. You really must get a grip. Take my advice and have a nice day." And with that, young Harry walked off. He saw some stones and was about to throw them, until he met Mr. Sturgis, who said, "Don't do that, Harry, or you'll end up in a poem." Believe it or not, although all those examples are extreme, one particular boy I taught did give me the idea for that poem. His name wasn't Harry.